Dr. Marcus Reed adjusted his tie for the fifth time as the transport pod carried him through the crystalline corridors of Station Alpha. The massive space station served as the headquarters for the Galactic Council, and today was Earth's annual assessment. After 3 years of representing humanity at these meetings, he expected the usual criticisms about Earth's primitive faster-than-light drives and limited colonial expansion. The pod slowed to a stop, and Reed checked his tablet one last time. Earth's technological progress report looked good. They'd finally cracked efficient fusion power, and the Mars colonies were thriving. Nothing too exciting, but nothing embarrassing either. He stepped out into the assessment chamber and froze. The room was in chaos. Alien representatives from across the galaxy were shouting and gesturing with various appendages. A tall, blue-skinned diplomat was waving a holographic display while arguing with a short, furry creature that kept changing colors. In the center of the chamber, Ambassador Vale, a being that looked like a cross between an octopus and a silver tree, was trying to restore order by flashing patterns of bioluminescent lights. "Please, council members," Vale's translator boomed across the chamber. "We must maintain decorum." Reed slipped into his designated seat, noticing that the representatives on either side of him quickly shifted their chairs away. That was new. Usually, they just ignored him. Now that Earth's representative has arrived, Vale continued, "We can begin the formal assessment. However, before we proceed with the standard evaluation, we must address the unprecedented situation that has arisen." Reed sat up straighter. Unprecedented wasn't good. In galactic politics, unprecedented usually meant someone was about to get their planet quarantined. During our preliminary data review, Vale's tentacles rippled with serious-looking patterns. Multiple council members raised concerns about Earth that fall outside our normal assessment criteria. After much discussion, the council has decided to create a new classification category. The chamber erupted again. Reed caught fragments of arguments from nearby representatives. The evidence is clear. But we can't just create a new category. Have you seen what they do for fun? Think of the diplomatic implications. Vale's bioluminescence flashed bright red, and the room fell silent. The proposal has already been approved by the Emergency Committee. We will now present the evidence for Earth's nomination as most terrifying planet in the known galaxy. Reed blinked, then blinked again. His translator must be malfunctioning. He tapped the device in his ear, but the words remained the same. "I'm sorry." He stood up, trying to keep his voice steady, but there seems to be some misunderstanding. Earth is a Class 3 developing world. We're here to discuss our technology assessment, not. He gestured vaguely, whatever this is. A small crystalline being near the front spun around, its facets reflecting light across the chamber. Did you or did you not recently have an event called Running of the Bulls where humans voluntarily ran in front of large angry herbivores? Well, yes, but that's just a traditional. And do your people willingly jump out of perfectly functional aircraft? Asked the gaseous entity, its cloud form shuddering. Skydiving is a sport. It's completely safe with proper. Safe. The gas being condensed in what Reed had learned was a sign of extreme distress. You throw yourselves from the edge of your atmosphere and consider it entertainment. Ambassador Vale raised 2 tentacles for silence. Dr. Reed, please be seated. We have compiled extensive evidence regarding Earth and its inhabitants. The Council will now begin its presentation, starting with your planet's weather systems, which your species seems to. Vale's translator crackled as if searching for the right words. Actively pursue for documentation purposes. Reed sank back into his chair. As the lights dimmed and the holographic display activated, he had a sinking feeling that this assessment was going to be very different from what he prepared for. He pulled out his tablet and started typing a message to Earth's diplomatic office. You're not going to believe this. The lights in the council chamber dimmed further as the main hologram sprang to life, filling the center of the room with swirling clouds and lightning. Dr. Reed recognized the satellite footage of a supercell thunderstorm over Oklahoma. Behold, Ambassador Vale's tentacles glowed softly in the darkness, a typical weather pattern from Earth's central continent. The storm in the hologram grew larger, its massive funnel cloud touching down and carving a path across the landscape. Several council members pulled their viewing appendages into defensive positions. As you can see, a scientific advisor shaped like a floating crystal continued. Earth experiences these tornadoes regularly. Wind speeds can exceed 300 units in their measurement system. The gaseous entity from earlier condensed even further. And the human's response to these atmospheric anomalies. The hologram shifted to show a red truck racing along a highway, clearly pursuing the tornado. Inside, a team of scientists could be seen pointing equipment at the storm. They chased them, Reed explained, trying to sound reasonable. It's for scientific research. We need to understand these weather patterns to better predict. They chase them. The crystalline being's facets flickered rapidly. You're saying humans see a violently rotating column of air that can lift buildings, and their response is to drive toward it. Reed nodded. Well, yes. We have specially trained teams. And this footage? Ambassador Vale interrupted, as the hologram changed to show surfers riding massive waves during a hurricane. That's just surfing, Reed said weakly. It's a recreational activity. The chamber erupted in horrified murmurs. The furry, color-changing alien turned a sickly shade of green. You mean to tell us, it squeaked, that when your planet creates waves tall enough to destroy coastal structures, your people ride them for fun? The hologram continued its presentation, showing blizzards, sandstorms, floods, and volcanic eruptions. Each new image was accompanied by footage of humans either studying, surviving, or in many cases, treating the phenomena as a recreational opportunity. Note, the scientific advisor highlighted a particular sequence, how humans in these skiing events deliberately slide down frozen mountain slopes at high speeds, often during active snowstorms. Reed watched as the footage showed a group of extreme skiers jumping off a cliff edge into deep powder. Several council members covered their sensory organs. But what about the lightning storms? Asked a tall, plant-like being whose leaves were trembling. Surely they avoid those. The hologram switched to show the Lightning Research Center in New Mexico, where scientists were using rockets to trigger lightning strikes for study. Reed slumped in his chair, not even bothering to explain this time. We have also observed, Ambassador Vale continued, that humans build permanent settlements in areas known for these weather extremes. They construct homes in Tornado Alley, along hurricane coastlines, and even on the slopes of active volcanoes. The volcanoes are actually quite safe with modern monitoring equipment. Reed tried to interject. We can predict eruptions well in advance now. You monitor the moving liquid rock, so you can stay closer to it. The gaseous being started to dissipate in distress and had to be collected by an aide with a special container. Ambassador Vale's tentacles formed what Reed had learned was a gesture of disbelief. Dr. Reed, can you explain why humans would choose to live in such conditions when more stable environments exist on your planet? Reed thought about the various reasons: history, culture, fertile soil near volcanoes, good fishing in hurricane zones, the economics of farming in tornado country. Somehow, he didn't think any of those explanations would help his case. The land is cheaper, he offered hopefully. The chamber fell silent. Then, slowly, every alien representative turned to stare at him with their various visual organs. Moving on, Ambassador Vale said quickly, to the next section of evidence, Earth's biological diversity. Reed pulled out his tablet again and added to his message. Send coffee. Lots of coffee. This is going to be a long day. The hologram in the council chamber shifted from weather patterns to a new image that made Dr. Reed groan. It showed Steve Thompson, the famous wildlife expert, wrestling with an alligator while grinning at the camera. We now move to Earth's biological entities, Ambassador Vale announced, several tentacles curling in apparent discomfort. Our research teams have cataloged over 50 million species on this single planet. That's not unusual for a Class 3 world. The gaseous being had recovered enough to rejoin the discussion, though it stayed inside its containment unit. True, the scientific advisor's crystal structure pulsed with light. But observe their nature. The hologram displayed a rapid sequence of Earth's predators: lions taking down prey, sharks breaching the water's surface, eagles swooping for fish, and bears catching salmon. Several council members shifted nervously in their seats. These are simply natural predator-prey relationships, Reed pointed out. Many worlds have them. Indeed, Ambassador Vale agreed. But do other worlds do this? The display changed to show people at a zoo, children pressing their faces against the glass of the big cat enclosure, tourists riding elephants, and families feeding deer in a wildlife park. You keep these creatures in enclosures for entertainment. The furry, color-changing alien was now rapidly cycling through shades of purple and orange. Well, yes, Reed explained. Zoos help with conservation, education, and... What about these? The scientific advisor interrupted, bringing up images of various pets: a woman cuddling with a large python, a man playing fetch with a German shepherd, a child gentle petting a tarantula. Those are pets, Reed said. Many humans keep animals as companions. The chamber erupted in chaos again. They sleep in the same dwellings as predators. Are the small humans being offered as food? Look at the size of those teeth. Ambassador Vale flashed bright patterns for order. Dr. Reed, our studies show that these dogs you keep in your homes are descended from pack-hunting predators that can run down prey over long distances. Yes, but they're domesticated now. They're friendly, Reed tried to explain. Dogs are loyal and what about these? The hologram showed various venomous creatures: blue-ringed octopuses, box jellyfish, inland taipans, and black mambas. Earth has more venomous species than any other known inhabited world, the scientific advisor noted. Yet humans regularly enter their habitats. The display switched to footage of a wildlife expert carefully milking venom from a cobra. That's for making antivenom, Reed said quickly. It saves lives. You mean you extract the toxins to inject them into your own bodies? The gaseous being's containment unit fogged up. No, it's more complicated than that. Reed started, but the presentation had already moved on. Most disturbing of all, Ambassador Vale continued, are the microscopic threats. The hologram zoomed in to show various bacteria and viruses. Earth's microorganisms are extraordinarily abundant and diverse. Many are lethal to human life. And yet, the display showed people swimming in the ocean, hiking through rainforests, and eating street food in crowded markets. Humans have developed immunities and medicines, Reed explained. We've learned to live with. They've adapted to coexist with deadly microorganisms, the scientific advisor interrupted. And now those microorganisms are evolving in response, becoming even more sophisticated. A small, previously quiet council member shaped like a geometric pattern suddenly spoke up. Are you saying Earth is actively generating biological weapons through natural selection? No, Reed protested. That's not what's happening at all. Let's move on, Ambassador Vale said hastily, their tentacles forming soothing patterns. We still need to discuss human biological capabilities. Reed noticed that the guards at the chamber doors had moved slightly further away from him. He added another note to his tablet. Request update to diplomatic training manual. Add section. How to explain pets without terrifying aliens. The hologram in the council chamber changed to display a detailed anatomical model of a human body. Dr. Reed straightened in his chair, feeling slightly uncomfortable as every alien in the room studied the rotating image with various sensing organs. Now we come to perhaps the most disturbing evidence, Ambassador Vale said, tentacles moving in complex patterns. The humans themselves. What's so disturbing about human biology? Reed asked. We're not particularly strong compared to many species. The scientific advisor's crystalline form sparkled as it moved forward. Let us begin with your endurance capabilities. The hologram shifted to show humans running marathons, ultra-distance events, and persistence hunting. The footage showed runners continuing despite bleeding feet, exhaustion, and extreme weather conditions. Your species can pursue prey until it dies of exhaustion. The furry, color-changing alien noted, turning a pale shade of gray. You just keep going. Most predators chase prey for short distances, the scientific advisor explained. Humans? They follow for days. They sleep less than their prey, require less rest, and can carry water with them. The gaseous being's containment unit vibrated. They don't even need to be pursuing prey. They do this voluntarily. The display showed clips from various endurance events. The Marathon des Sables across the Sahara Desert, the Iditarod Trail Race through Alaskan winter, and the Badwater Ultra through Death Valley. These are sporting events, Reed explained. They're challenges that test human limits. You intentionally test your limits in environments that should kill you. Ambassador Vale's tentacles curled tightly. For entertainment, the hologram shifted again, showing human healing capabilities. Observe how they recover from injuries. The scientific advisor continued. Broken bones. They fuse back together. Lost blood. They make more. Damaged skin. They grow replacements. Many species can heal, Reed pointed out. Yes, but do they voluntarily damage themselves repeatedly to become stronger? The display showed weightlifters, martial artists, and athletes in training. Several council members shifted uncomfortably as they watched humans deliberately tearing muscle fibers through exercise, only to heal stronger than before. And then there's their thermal regulation, the scientific advisor continued. The hologram displayed humans surviving in both extreme heat and cold. They can maintain consciousness in temperatures that would kill most sentient species. We sweat, Reed said simply. It's not that remarkable. You excrete water to cool yourselves, then drink more to replace it, the gaseous being condensed in horror, and you can process an incredible variety of substances for energy. The display showed various human foods and drinks. Your species can consume chemicals that would poison others, just for pleasure, Ambassador Vale noted. Caffeine, capsaicin, alcohol. The capsaicin is particularly disturbing, the scientific advisor added. Humans intentionally eat a chemical compound that triggers pain receptors. Some even compete to endure the most pain. Reed remembered the hot wing eating contest he'd watched last week and decided not to mention it. But perhaps most terrifying, Ambassador Vale's tentacles formed a pattern Reed had never seen before, is their response to physical damage. The hologram showed medical procedures, surgeons cutting into bodies, setting bones, and transplanting organs. They cut themselves open to fix internal problems. The furry alien's color had faded to almost white. They remove and replace organs. They can even survive with artificial parts. And sometimes, the scientific advisor's crystal structure dimmed. They do this while still conscious. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Reed noticed that even the guards were now standing as far from him as their posts would allow. He sighed and added another note to his tablet. Request medical history be classified as need-to-know information for future diplomatic meetings. Dr. Reed had hoped the presentation would improve after covering human biology. He was wrong. The hologram now displayed various forms of human entertainment, and the council chamber had somehow become even more tense. We move now to examine human recreational activities, Ambassador Vale announced, tentacles moving in what Reed had learned was a nervous pattern. Please note that the following footage may be disturbing. The display showed a base jumper leaping off a cliff, their wingsuit allowing them to glide between rocky outcrops before deploying their parachute at the last possible moment. They jump from high places, the Crystal Scientific Advisor noted, not for any practical purpose, but simply to experience the sensation of falling. With proper safety equipment, Reed started. Safety equipment that they sometimes deliberately minimize for additional excitement, the advisor interrupted. The hologram showed free climbing, with humans scaling sheer cliff faces without ropes. The gaseous being's containment unit rattled. They climbed to heights where the air is too thin to breathe, without artificial assistance. Only some people do that, Reed tried to explain. Most climbers use ropes and the display changed to show various extreme sports, skateboarding down steep hills, motocross riders doing backflips, and people walking tightropes between buildings. Their young especially seem drawn to activities that risk serious injury, Ambassador Vale observed. They use wheeled devices to slide down railings, perform aerial rotations on boards attached to their feet, and deliberately crash into each other while chasing balls. Those are just sports, Reed protested. They help build physical fitness and… What about this? The scientific advisor changed the display to show a horror movie screening. The audience was watching through their fingers, screaming and jumping at scary moments. They gather in dark rooms to watch simulated danger scenarios. The furry alien noted, its color shifting to a deep blue. They pay money to experience fear. It's not real, Reed explained. It's just entertainment. Stories. Stories. Ambassador Vale's tentacles curled in confusion. You mean humans intentionally create narratives designed to trigger fear responses, for pleasure? The hologram showed people playing video games, flinching at jump scares, and fighting virtual monsters. Several council members covered their sensory organs and their food customs, the scientific advisor continued, changing the display to show eating contests and spicy food challenges. They compete to consume dangerous amounts of sustenance, or items specifically engineered to cause pain. The footage showed someone eating a ghost pepper while their friends cheered them on. The gaseous being's containment unit fogged up completely. That's just a small part of our food culture, Reed said quickly. Most meals are much more normal. Normal. The advisor's crystal structure flickered. You ferment perfectly good food until it chemically changes, then consider it a delicacy. You deliberately age meat products. You eat things that could kill you if prepared incorrectly. Speaking of deliberate chemical changes, Ambassador Vale interjected, we must discuss their social gatherings. The hologram showed various celebrations, New Year's Eve fireworks, carnival rides, music festivals, and dance clubs. They congregate in large numbers, the furry alien observed. Now a swirling mix of worried colors expose themselves to intense sound waves that can damage their hearing and often consume substances that impair their judgment. Those are parties, Reed said weakly. They're fun. Fun. Ambassador Vale's tentacles formed what Reed recognized as the pattern for complete bafflement. You consider temporary sensory damage and intentional cognitive impairment to be entertainment. Reed glanced at his tablet, wondering if he should try to explain roller coasters next, but decided some things were better left undiscussed. He typed another note. Suggest immediate review of human entertainment videos in cultural exchange package. As the council chamber's hologram shifted again, Dr. Reed noticed something odd. The alien representatives weren't just scared anymore. They looked completely bewildered. The new display showed cities rebuilt after various disasters. New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina, Tokyo after earthquakes, Hawaii's towns near active volcanoes. We now come to what may be the most incomprehensible aspect of human behavior, Ambassador Vale announced, tentacles forming patterns that suggested deep confusion. Their response to catastrophic events. Surely they evacuate dangerous areas permanently after major disasters. The gaseous being asked hopefully from within its containment unit. The scientific advisor's crystal structure dimmed. No, they rebuild. In the exact same locations. The hologram zoomed in on New Orleans. This human settlement was devastated by a massive storm surge. The humans' response. They built bigger walls and returned. The city has historical and cultural significance, Reed explained, and the new flood defenses are much stronger. Then explain this. The advisor changed the display to show Naples, Italy, sitting in the shadow of Mount Vesuvius. They build homes on the slopes of an explosive mountain that previously destroyed an entire civilization. The soil is very fertile there, Reed started, but was interrupted by a collective gasp from the council. They risk extinction for better agricultural yields. The furry alien's color had shifted to a completely new shade that Reed suspected might be previously undiscovered. The hologram switched to show San Francisco. This entire city sits atop a massive fault line, the advisor noted. They know catastrophic Earth movements will occur again. Their solution: they invented special buildings that sway with the tremors. Actually, that's quite clever engineering, Reed tried to interject. They made their structures dance with the ground breaking. The gaseous being's containment unit began to vibrate. Instead of leaving, they adapted their buildings to move. Ambassador Vale raised several tentacles for calm. But perhaps most disturbing is what humans do after these disasters occur. The display showed various disaster sites turned tourist attractions: the Pompeii ruins, the Chernobyl exclusion zone, tornado damage paths, and volcano viewing platforms. They turned their catastrophes into entertainment. The geometric pattern alien spoke up for the first time in a while, its shapes rearranging in apparent distress. Indeed, the scientific advisor confirmed. They visit disaster sites, take images of themselves there, and pay to learn about past destruction. It's educational, Reed protested. We learn from past events to prevent. They'd bring their young to see these places, Ambassador Vale noted, tentacles curling in horror. They establish museums dedicated to documenting disasters. They create detailed records of destruction for future reference. The hologram showed a museum exhibit about the Titanic disaster. Several council members had to look away. And this is perhaps the most terrifying detail, the advisor continued. When disasters occur on other parts of their planet, humans often rush toward the danger. The display showed emergency response teams, firefighters running into burning buildings, rescue workers digging through earthquake rubble, medical teams deploying to disaster zones. You mean they intentionally enter active disaster areas? The furry alien was now cycling through colors so quickly it looked like a strobe light. To help others, Reed said firmly, we have a duty to. They have developed specialized humans who run toward danger. The advisor's crystal structure pulsed rapidly. They train them to enter unstable buildings, to swim in flood waters, to jump out of aircraft into forest fires. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Finally, Ambassador Vale spoke, their tentacles moving in what Reed now recognized as a pattern of resigned acceptance. I believe, Vale said quietly, we have seen enough evidence. The Council will now vote on Earth's categorization. Reed began typing on his tablet again, then stopped and just put his head in his hands. How could he possibly explain this to the diplomatic office back home? Humans too brave for their own good wasn't exactly a standard diplomatic crisis. The voting process took less than 5 minutes. Dr. Reed had never seen the Galactic Council move so quickly on anything. Usually, they debated for hours just to decide what to have for lunch. The results are unanimous, Ambassador Vale announced, tentacles glowing with official patterns. Earth is hereby classified as the most terrifying planet in known space. Reed stood up, straightening his tie. With all due respect, this seems a bit extreme. We're just a species that treats natural disasters as tourist attractions, keeps apex predators as pets, and voluntarily jumps out of flying vehicles for entertainment. The scientific advisor's crystal structure pulsed rapidly. The classification stands. Don't forget they're young. The gaseous being added from its containment unit. They gather in groups to tell stories about invisible entities that cause harm, then sleep in darkness. Scary stories at slumber parties aren't exactly, Reed began, and they expose themselves to harmful radiation voluntarily. The furry alien interrupted, its color shifting to alarmed orange. They lie on beaches until their skin changes color. That's just tanning, Reed sighed. It's perfectly. They deliberately alter their skin through controlled radiation exposure. The geometric pattern alien shapes spun in distress. For aesthetic purposes, Ambassador Vale raised several tentacles for silence. Dr. Reed, please approach the central platform for the official award presentation. Reed blinked. There's an actual award. Of course, Vale replied. The Galactic Council takes all classifications very seriously. As Reed walked to the platform, he noticed the other representatives giving him an even wider berth than before. The guards at the door had their weapons pointed at the ground, but their appendages were twitching nervously. Ambassador Vale produced a crystal trophy that seemed to glow from within. The holographic display above showed its image to the whole chamber. The trophy base had inscriptions in various alien languages, and the top portion was shaped like Earth, though Reed noticed they'd made the storms look much bigger than they actually were. In recognition of Earth's unique status, Vale announced formally, "We present this award, which will be displayed in the Galactic Council's Hall of Classifications. The force field around it will be triple strength, of course." Reed accepted the trophy, trying to look appropriately serious. "On behalf of Earth, I thank the Council for this unexpected honor." Then a thought struck him. He cleared his throat. "You know, since Earth has been officially classified this way, perhaps we should arrange a cultural exchange visit. Council members could experience some of our unique attractions firsthand." The chamber went completely silent. Several representatives seemed to stop breathing. Those that needed to breathe, anyway. "I know some excellent spots in Australia," Reed continued innocently, "and we could arrange some recreational activities. Skydiving, shark cage diving, volcano tours." The gaseous being's containment unit began to fog up again. The furry alien's color drained to pure white. The geometric pattern alien's shapes froze in what looked like terror. Ambassador Vale's tentacles formed patterns that Reed's translator couldn't quite process. "That won't be. I mean, we shouldn't. Perhaps we should move on to other business." Reed smiled and pulled out his tablet one last time. He typed a quick message to Earth's diplomatic office. "Mission accomplished. Earth's safety from invasion now guaranteed. Recommend immediate development of tourism packages specifically for alien diplomats. Suggest starting with haunted house tours." As he walked back to his seat, trophy in hand, Reed couldn't help but notice that even Ambassador Vale's tentacles curled away from him slightly. He made a mental note to mention bungee jumping during tomorrow's trade negotiations. Sometimes, being from the scariest planet in the galaxy had its advantages.